Today, I want to discuss the theory I've been seeing people commenting about, which is a theory that the upcoming episode, titled Sinsmas, will be a classic parody of It's a Wonderful Life, the well-known Christmas movie where the main character learns what the world would be like if he had never been born. Let's talk about this theory, why people think it may happen to Blitz, and how that would pan out in the show. But real quick, leave a comment telling me what you want for Christmas this year, wrong answers only. Or subscribe if you're not funny enough to do that. I love you either way. Now, the recent episode revealed it is Halloween in the world of Helluva Boss, with 3 episodes remaining until the Christmas special, Sinsmas. Previously, I theorized that Sinsmas would focus on the 7 deadly sins, who seem to be meeting in the trailer at Lucifer's castle, where we can see apple and serpent imagery in the background. Along with guests like Mammon and apparently Satan, we see the Goetia indicating a total royal get-together. It would make sense that this episode title is Sinsmas, and this would make quite the epic season finale as well. However, some fans think that Sinsmas is going to go in a different direction. Currently, the next episode is titled Ghost Effers. Yes, I'm still saying Ghost Effers, and yes, I'm still explaining that I'm saying Ghost Effers. This episode seems to use the majority of trailer that remains in the footage of Blitz and Millie at a haunted hotel, fighting against a possessor demon. This leaves 2 primary sequences for the remaining episodes, Mastermind and Sinsmas. With Sinsmas being far off, some fans are speculating that Mastermind is called such because it's about a plan masterminded by Andrealphis or Mammon at the big royal event, which is bound to be dramatic as hell. The only other big sequence we see is Blitz and the gang seemingly on the run after some demons in hoods are chasing them, which would make sense to happen after some dramatic revelation of Blitz's shady business in front of a legal council that Osmodeus and Stolas are called into. So there is a lot of different ways that this could go, but the theory here is that for one reason or another, most of what we see in the trailer is what takes place in Mastermind, with Sinsmas being a more proper Christmas-themed episode to end the season. Now, one of the most common themes for any Christmas special is, interestingly, exploring an alternate reality where the main character is never born. This was popularized by the 1940s film It's a Wonderful Life, which itself is based on a short story. It's a Wonderful Life was a movie that goes beyond what we normally think of as a Christmas movie, with it focusing on a character named George who wants to end his life himself on Christmas Eve because of how badly life has gone for him and how badly he has made things with where he ended up. He dreamt of going to college and becoming an archaeologist, but ended up having to take care of his family after his father passed away. George ends up losing $8,000 due to an error, which is enough to cripple his family and seemingly ruin his life. Before he can end his life, he is visited by an angel who shows George what it would be like if he had never been born. George gets to visit an alternate reality where no one recognizes him because he was never born, because of which the work he put in at the business was never done, and his hometown just ended up falling victim to a much greedier banker who has essentially ruined everything. In addition to this, his brother drowned with no one there to watch out for him, his wife is a lonely spinster, and his children are never born. George realizes just not that he has a positive influence on the world, but that if he ended his life, he couldn't continue being that positive influence, that whatever bad is about to happen will be even worse without him there to take care of the people he loves. This has been parodied quite a bit in media, often rather seriously, and even without the Christmas framing. For Blitz in particular, I think this plot would make perfect sense, as we've spent this entire season slowly unraveling just how messed up Blitz is. This was the season we learned that Blitz stole Veroska's car because she had simply told him that she loved him. It's the season we learned that Blitz burnt down his entire family business with his mother inside. And the season we learned that he is basically the reason that his sister became a drug addict. His business might end up ruining Stolas' life, some rogued demons may be after Blitz and the IMP gang, and it looks like there might be a point where Blitz thinks that the world is really better off without him. How he'd actually end up seeing a reality where he doesn't exist is hard to say. It's hell, so I'm sure some sort of magic exists that could do this, but he may just get blackout drunk and have a dream of sorts. The how is not so important. What's important is what would be different in a world without Blitz that would hopefully make him realize that he is an ultimate net good in the world. In this theory, the footage we see of Blitz and Millie seemingly fighting at a bar would potentially be from an alternate reality. Now, some people think this is just a flashback to how Blitz met Millie, as we never actually got that in the show. We know Blitz met Moxie in a prison, and this led to them working together and eventually to Moxie meeting Millie. While it would be cool to learn that Blitz met Millie through a fight, then decided to hire her, the fact that Moxie and Millie met through Blitz means that in a world where he never existed, they never would have gotten married. This is the OTP in Blitz's world, the one couple that can't be torn apart, and for them to not find each other, or worse, to end up in horrible relationships with others, would be sad to see. Millie could just be working security somewhere else in this alternate reality, not reaching her full potential, and perhaps Moxie would just end up being bailed out of jail by his father and get trapped in the darkness of his family business. These two would end up being sad in this world where they never met Blitz because they never would have met each other, but probably the most terrifying thing would be what Luna's life would be like without Blitz. We know that Luna was abandoned at the Pound in the Gluttony Ring, where she was clearly not having a good time being locked away all day with other toxic hellhounds. Luna acts like Blitz is just the absolute worst, but at the end of the day, her life as a prisoner was ended early because of him, where she would go on to get a pretty cushy job and her own room in Blitz's apartment when he just sleeps on the couch. Luna probably doesn't think about just how good she has it, even when she does appreciate Blitz. And that's not entirely a bad thing, as it means she genuinely came to appreciate Blitz as a person, more so than someone who has done stuff for her. But this kind of episode would show the harsh reality of what Luna would have become if she was forced to spend the rest of her youth in that prison of a dog pound, which I imagine would be horrible and unhappy. Then of course there is Stolas. Stolas is in a pretty bad place because of Blitz, though it's not necessarily Blitz's own fault. Stolas is equally responsible in their relationship, but even beyond that, Blitz's business might end up causing trouble for Stolas legally, as we discussed earlier. However, we as the audience know how much Blitz means to Stolas, even if things never work out between them. Sometimes a new relationship is necessary to end an old one. It doesn't mean that ending the first relationship is wrong if the new one doesn't work out, but rather it takes another person like Blitz to help someone realize how trapped they are in their life, such as Stolas was with Stella. Stolas came from a life where cheating is rather common, it would seem, but he never indulged in it until he met Blitz. Blitz wasn't a random fling or someone to seduce either, but rather Stolas was the one who felt seduced, and it was the first time in his life he ever felt like he could be appreciated. It's because of Blitz that Stolas realizes that he is okay wanting to be wanted, that he is someone who deserves love, whether it's from Blitz or from someone else like the succubus at Verosika's party. Blitz could walk into this alternate reality and see that Stolas is still married to Stella, but growing ever closer to a true breakdown far beyond what we've seen in the show, his life being not just miserable, but perhaps considerably darker. However, Blitz met Stolas first as a child, which means that the changes in Stolas' life could go back to his childhood. It was Blitz that became the childhood memory that Stolas held onto, the person that kept him focused on being a certain version of himself that he thought Blitz had appreciated. Without that childhood bond, Stolas may have evolved to be entirely different. We've talked a lot in our videos about how Pilot Stolas was said to have been the original antagonist of the show before being developed to a proper love interest, starting with episode 1. It would be hilarious and also creepy if, in this alternate reality, Stolas had grown out of his soft childhood persona into a more dark and twisted adult, closer to someone like Andrealphus. Perhaps in this reality, Stolas isn't miserable with Stella, but rather Stella is someone that he is very similar to after years without Blitz's influence. While his life in Dimension A may not be great because of Blitz's influence already, Blitz would realize that Stolas is still better off with him in his life, even if Stolas is on his own now as an adult, having the opportunity to perhaps fall in love again with someone else. Then there's Fizzarali. Blitz is responsible for Fizzarali being burnt, crippled, and injured, when Blitz accidentally burnt down the circus, which conveniently led to fireworks exploding in Fizz's face. However, Fizz has made it clear that he ultimately accepts everything that happened in his life, not just because it led to the huge success he has, but because it led him to meeting the love of his life, Osmodius. Osmodius had made it clear he loves Fizz as he is, which includes all of his scars and baggage. I'm not saying there's an alternate reality where Osmodius just doesn't have feelings for Fizz because he didn't end up this way, but I think it's instead possible that without the circus burning down, Fizz and Osmodius just wouldn't have crossed paths, and that Fizz may never have actually tried Mammon's big competition. Instead, he may have been trapped at the circus as Blitz's dad began to manipulate him. Fizz doesn't seem to have his own father around, and Cash Buxo seemed to want Fizz as a son more than Blitz, as we saw on his birthday card that he gave him in Blitz's flashback. Cash is super manipulative, and I feel like with Fizz bringing in fame, Cash would hold Fizz back from leaving the circus, from finding more success, milking Fizz's good nature to force him to stay and essentially support Cash Buxo and the entire business. With this, we would also see Blitz's mother and Barbie Wire, but it's hard to imagine how their lives could be worse without Blitz, especially with Blitz's mother being dead because of him. In this alternate world where the circus never burnt down, Barbie Wire may still have succumbed to her drug habit, with it being far worse than the reality that Blitz lives in. Fame may have been what really ruined Barbie and not the accident, with Barbie eventually recovering in Blitz's real timeline, but perhaps just being a depressing disappointment to her mother as Cash Buxo keeps raking in the money and Barbie Wire keeps doing drugs in order to cope with her life. In the movie It's a Wonderful Life, the character George is able to interact with the people he is talking to and get some real insight from them if he chooses to do so. With that in mind, Blitz could see his mother perhaps at the last stop on this trip, and even ask her what she really thinks her life had become, if she would feel better knowing her daughter was no longer famous and no longer on drugs in a world where she happened to pass away. And perhaps a brutally honest answer from the mother, even if she doesn't actually believe it's anything more than hypothetical, is what makes Blitz realize even his own mother would not have wished him out of existence. And so, Blitz could return to his dimension with the intent to just do his best to help the people that he is currently screwed over, as it's still better than what they would have been without him. But this is just a wild theory based on some comments on a previous video, and I've heard from some comments left behind on other videos that VivziePop has said that the Goetia and Sins meeting at this royal palace will definitely be in the finale. So none of this may actually pan out to be true. So let me know some of your wild theories in the comments down below, and maybe I'll make a video out of that too. Happy Christmas in July.